Yeah, hi. Welcome to another session of Mock Interview with Ankit Jain. So this is me, Ankit Jain. So I'm a technical architect in MNC. I'm 18X certified. I'm active in Salesforce events. I have this YouTube channel, Mock Interviews with Ankit Jain on YouTube. This is my LinkedIn URL. So you can feel free to connect with me. To update it about the future sessions, you can either connect with me, follow me on LinkedIn, or you can join the WhatsApp group through this QR code. So it's a bit about me. Yeah,
Yeah.
so today we have Sashi with us. So we will be having a mock interview with Sashi. So let's get started, Sashi. So let's get started with your brief introduction.
Yeah, Ankit. Hi, Ankit. This is Shashidhar Reddy having 3 years of development experience in Salesforce. So I have, admin and Apex customization, LWC, and using flows. All these things I have worked in my previous project. And in my project, we are used to get that deployments by using the Git. And so in my project, I worked for a PNC bank. It's a banking project. We mainly focus on that case object. It's a already well developed project. We mainly focus on that enhancements and enhancement and uh, building the screens using the LWC. So all these things we are done using in my previous project. And I did my schooling in my hometown and plus two in Nellore in Narayana Junior College. And I did my graduation in Chennai, specialized in ECE. This is all from my side, Ankit.
Good to hear that, Sashi. There are a few pointers like I would like to mention here. It's good
Yes,
you started quite well. You started with like you have 3 years of experience. So I would say start with what is your current designation at your current company. Then you talk about like total how many of years of experience in Salesforce you have, or total experience if that is different. You mentioned like total I have the suppose 5 years of experience, 3 years into Salesforce. Then you talk about like any credentials you hold. Credentials, I mean, like, suppose you have any certifications, or
yes,
then you mentioned about that because that is like, see, first impression is kind of you set the stage. So you have
yes,
to, yeah, so you have to sell yourself. So you will have to talk about the things which the panel or the panel would be interested in. Like suppose when you talk about like you are doing, you have done some certifications, uh, that way you're creating an impression in the mind of the panel. Like yes, he has done some certification, so he must be having good knowledge. Then
yes,
next
Ankit.
yeah, the next thing you talk about is the skill set. You mentioned rightly, like you worked on LWC, Apex, and flows, and all of those things. Another pointer to here is you mentioned the skill set. Uh, then you asked about the panel, like whether you would you like to talk about the latest project which you worked on. Uh, and in that, I would say try to avoid saying like you worked on enhancement project because that actually gives the picture like you have not worked much on the development, which again it shows the although you would have worked and you have good knowledge, but when you say like you worked on an enhancement project, it gives the impression like the person has just done some bug fixing and not much customization or level of development is quite low. It gives that impression, although it might not be true, but that is what the first impression tells me.
Okay.
uh, Any deviation or any pointers or anything what is in going in your mind, you can feel free to say that.
So instead of enhancement project, so just I said that like,
I
so my,
did it, and also you mentioned the client name, which is an, again a red flag. Like although in the interview no panel would say anything, it would work fine. But sometimes telling the client name might land you in legal troubles as well.
okay, fine.
So just say like it's for a bank, leading bank. and you explain about the functionality. Like, means this thing would come when you ask the panel, like, would you like me to talk about the latest project which I worked on or recent project which I worked on? And then you can go ahead like how you were saying in the things.
Okay, fine.
I would say, uh, let's pause for a minute and take some time, formulate your thoughts, and then let's do the intro again. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Can I start? I mean, like a video on or?
either your choice. Yeah, hi Sashi. So let's get started. Will you start with your brief introduction, please?
Yes, Ankit. Hi, Ankit. This is Shashidhar Reddy. Presently, I'm working in the application development analyst in Accenture. I completed my 3 years of experience in Salesforce developer, and I completed Salesforce admin certification and Salesforce platform developer certification. And I have work experience in Apex customization, Salesforce admin, and Lightning web components and flows. And majorly I worked on service cloud, Ankit. And if I talk about my project experience, I worked for a banking project, and we worked for a banking project. In that project, we used to do building the screens and text customization, all these things we can do, and flows and passing the data from Apex to flows, and passing the data from LWC to flows. All these things we are getting for building the screens in my previous project. And daily we having the scrum calls to get the current stories, I mean, via Jira. So we are using the deployments by using the Git. And if I talk about my schooling, all these things, I completed my schooling in my hometown, and I completed my +2 in the Narayana Junior College, Nellore. And I completed my graduated from Weltech University in Chennai, and specialization in electronics and communication engineering. These are from my end, Ankit.
Uh, I could see the improvement, but few things again here. You went ahead with explaining the project without asking the panel. Another point, you mentioned about your schooling and your specialization. This seems irrelevant details to me.
Okay, so
It
don't
doesn't,
specify
you can just stop after you mentioned about your skill set that you worked on.
that.
Yeah, and then you can ask the panel, if you allowed me, I would like to explain about this in the project which I worked on. Then if the panel says yes, which he definitely will want to hear that, then you can get started, and don't start with these technical stuff. Start with what is the business problem, what was the actual solution. Like suppose, as I understand it, then for the banking client, the requirement here was to have a complaint management system where or the service request they would want to manage that. For that, the bank had a separate website through which there was it was a customer community implementation where there was a screen where there was a option for the customer to raise a case, so which we implemented using web2 case functionality. And since it was we didn't wanted to show any reports or dashboard to them, we used a customer community license. And then when the user logs in, he was
Yeah.
able to log in and make edits to his own profile. He was able to raise the case. He was able to see the knowledge articles. The intent was of knowledge articles here was that we wanted to avoid too much traffic or too much load on the service agents. Since the core purpose of the customer community is to give them self-help, or I would say self-servicing portal. So that way we help them to improve the agent productivity of our agents. And then after this Web2 case is done, to manage the workload, we have implemented the different assignment rules based on different conditions.
Yes.
Uh, and then since we all know, like these are the for managing load, queue is the best way to do that. So we have different queues depending upon different conditions and different priorities. We had the SLAs in place so that our customer service Means our customers get valued and they are able to get a good experience. If their queries are able to get resolved in the designated time.
Yes, Ankit, I
Uh,
understand completely.
See, here I made talked about the technical stuff as well as I'm talking the business, like how the entire flow works.
Yes.
So take some time, or if you could do it right now as well, not a problem, and explain the project in this manner.
Yeah, sure, definitely, Ankit.
Here one more point. Whenever you talk about a feature, like say Web2 case, know about its limitation as well. Web2
Yes.
case can only support 5,000 cases per day.
Yeah.
So panel might ask you about that as well.
Yeah, Ankit, definitely.
Okay.
I,
If you want, you
yes.
can take some time. We can again. Okay. So would you like to try
Uh,
it now?
no, Ankit, I mean, I'm good with it.
You
Yeah, can we proceed further?
okay? Sure, not a problem.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
you yeah. So you mentioned about like you implement Web2 case. So does while implementing Web2 case, your assignment tools get fired, or you have to use a process builder or a flow?
Yes, assignment rules will get fired. I mean, like, so there are the multiple assignment rules are there. So it will execute according to this condition. But the thing is that only one will be active at the one time.
Okay. Uh, Tell me like who can be a owner of a record?
I mean, record means which record?
Any record.
Though, I mean, the person who created.
Is it always a person or it can be a group of people?
Yeah, it can be a person or a group of people. Right? I mean, like the queue persons will be the record owners.
So whenever a panel asks you this question, be clear like he is just asking about like a user or a queue.
Group of people.
Group of
Yes.
people means it can be like it's confusing because you might get confused like whether he's talking a public group or is he talking about a queue.
Yeah,
He is
definitely.
trying to confuse you. So be specific, like a record owner is always a user or a queue.
Yeah.
Do you know the fundamental difference between the public group and the queue?
Yes, the major differences between the public group and is queue is like the queue is majorly focused upon the queue members will be the maybe owner of the records, but the public groups cannot the members cannot be the owners of the records, and the public group is mainly used for sharing of the records, the major focus of the public group, and this is the major differences between the public group and but public group and queue is just it's a collection of users only.
Uh, Although what you said for the public group was right, but you have to also give it a point like queue is actually main use case is about balancing the record, balancing the load of users.
Okay, fine, I understand.
Yeah. So you mentioned like you worked on the Apex classes as well. So tell me like
Yes.
what are different sharing methods for means what are the different keywords that we can have in the starting like with sharing without sharing and what is the other one?
The managed package like we can use different keywords like for security purpose. So with sharing and without sharing, inherited sharing and omitted sharing. So
Sorry,
these
what is the
four
one? With, without, and?
with sharing, without sharing, inherited sharing.
Okay. What is the difference between these three?
Whenever you created any class, by default it takes as a without sharing. Without sharing means like the class will be run in the system mode. So the system mode means whatever the you logged in user currently running. So it will ignores all the object permissions, field permission, all these things. It ignores it. It runs in the system mode. It is like without sharing, and with sharing is like a user mode. So whatever the your current user logged in user having the object permission and fields permission, it respect it. According to that only it gives the data. It is the with sharing. So the other one is the inherited sharing is like so whatever the caller class, I mean like if one class is having calling the another class, the parent class, whatever the parent class having the with sharing or without sharing, that will be inherited to the child. If the parent is having the with sharing, so by default it will be that with sharing is applied to the child also.
Okay. Assume like there are 100 records. Okay. And
Yes.
the current user has access only to two records. If I do the query and that code is if that Apex class has with sharing, what will the output? If it is without sharing, what will be the output? The person has access only to two records.
Yes, I mean like if the person has having the two, then only you can get only two records if the OWD is a private.
And if it is without sharing,
So without sharing means it runs in a system mode, so you will get all the 100 records.
okay. If suppose if the class is without sharing, but in the query I write with system mode, sorry, with user mode, what will be the result?
Sorry, can I got
In the
question
query,
again?
if I specify if it is with system with user mode, what will be the result? In the query also we can add with the user mode with system mode, right?
I mean like that is security with enforce like that you are asking, Ankit?
With security enforces one of the tag, but apart from that, there's with system mode and with user mode as well.
Yes, I mean like if you specify any user mode, I means whatever the things, there are some different more different methods are there when you use that user mode. So like if you query, I mean you are getting some error if you don't having the access on the particular fields, Ankit. So if you need to escape that error, so we need to write according to that logic, Ankit.
Okay. Tell me like in the what are different kinds of controllers actually we have in
Sorry,
Apex? Types of controllers.
types of controller. I didn't understand that.
Standard controller, extension, custom controller.
No, I don't know much about this.
Okay. Tell me like if suppose you have a custom controller, will it be without sharing or it will be with sharing or is it to be inherited sharing?
So, custom controller is a like a class or
It's a custom class, like you have declared a created a controller. So what will be its access by default?
so by default it is a without sharing.
Okay. Now tell me, like
Yes.
in the controller, can I make a call out?
In the class you can make a call out. You're asking like.
Yeah, if I have to make a call out, can I do that in the Apex class or I would need any annotation, anything like that?
So for making any call out, you don't need. I mean, like just you need to call the web server. I mean, like HTTP for methods. You need to get the you make a call out to the web service. That's it. I mean, for the few annotations, we don't need it.
Okay. What will happen if I don't get the response within 10 seconds?
You will get a error.
Okay. How do I avoid that?
How to? I mean, like, can I call that call to the web service again?
See again, like you said, like if suppose it doesn't get the give you the response in 10 seconds, what are your alternatives?
So we need to show that some other message we to the user.
Can't I do a synchronous call out, or can I not use continuation to do the call out and capture the response?
Yes, in my project also we are using the continuation, but the thing is that there are if it exceeds the 10 seconds also, we will get the exception, right, Ankit, in continuation also.
No, the limit is extended to 60 seconds when you use continuation.
Okay, okay,
Its
yeah.
main use case is only long running call outs. Because 10 seconds, anyways, you are getting with request and reply. So, what is the advantage of using continuation?
I mean, like continuation is like you are
It makes
First, I
it
mean,
it's similar
make a
to
call
future
out to
method.
multiple.
The only
Yes,
advantage, it's
exactly.
exactly similar to future method, but the catch here is like you have a method callback when that API response you will be getting in. So you know, like when that response is returned, you have that variables defined, like where you can populate that data. In,
Yes.
a, in Otherwise, in future method, you don't know when it would get returned. If you don't get the response, it will throw you an error.
Yeah, I understand it, Ankit.
Okay. Uh, so tell me about the security model of Salesforce.
In a Salesforce admin, we're having the security model like there are four types of security models. Security models in Salesforce, one is a OWD, and is a role hierarchy, and is a sharing rules, and is a manual sharing. So that OWD is the baseline security of the records, and the role hierarchy is that whenever I mean that role hierarchy, it opens the visibility then the OWD. The role hierarchy is that the user above the user who are the manager of the user A. I mean, they can able to see the records of user A. So this is the role hierarchy. That sharing rules is like whenever there the sharing rules is like there are two types of sharing rules are there. So you have to create up to 300 sharing rules. In that 300 sharing rules, up to we can create up to 50 criteria based sharing rules. So there are two types of there is a criteria based and ownership based sharing rules. And above all three, if you didn't specify, I mean, like if you didn't satisfy the condition, still you want to share the record means that last and final one is a manual sharing, manual sharing rule. So in this manual sharing, like you can share the record to the particular user using the by using the manual. I mean, like if it all works, that OWD manual sharing rule, hierarchy sharing rules, all the things. If that particular object OWD is private, then only this will open up to the manual sharing.
Okay. Two things here. Few features you're not aware of. We also have criteria guest sharing rule as well.
Apex sharing rule.
Guest.
Oh, guest sharing rule. Or I don't know about this. I will
It's
look
when you
into
have
it.
the customer community enabled, you get that guest sharing rule as well.
Okay.
Uh, Also, you talked about the security model. You missed restriction rules.
Yeah.
So we have optional restriction rules as well. Next part, you didn't mention about the teams. You know about account teams, case teams. You know
Account.
about.
Yes, account teams. Yes. Heard about this.
So
Ankit.
you need to talk about it when you talk about the security model. You can
Yeah.
also
Sure.
you
Definitely.
can mention that these are the different ways to give the access. So apart from these things, we also have the option also, although it's not recommended, but you have the option of view all, modify all in the profile level as well, profile permission set. You mentioned that your CRUD operation, like your with what operation you will be able to perform, whether it's read, write, edit, or delete, that is determined by your profile and permission set. And then how much level of access you will be getting, that would determine on your OWD, your rules, your sharing rules, your restriction rules, then
Yes.
your teams,
Teams.
if you or so these are the different things. So mention about all the things. First mention, tell them, make them aware about like object level, what are the access that is you can means how it is provided like through profile permission set. Then make them more like how the access is restricted at the base level OWD. Then it opens up and how it's again like there's an option to restrict it. You have the option of restriction rules as well.
Yes, Ankit. I
The,
understand.
yeah, so that way you have to proceed. Next, in the community itself, like there's sharing set option as well. Have you worked on communities?
No, no, no. I don't know work on communities, Ankit.
Okay. So just get a high level idea about that. You won't be asked much, but I'm saying this to you to know about little bit of community because we have the sharing sets. Sharing set is another mechanism of sharing the data for community users. If suppose you have customer community license only, if you have customer community plus means you get access to roles and you're able to apply sharing rules on top of it.
Yeah, Ankit.
And also you get access to reports and dashboard. Next thing, around since you worked on the admin side, tell me the different kinds of flows that we have.
Yeah, there are multiple flows out there in Salesforce flow. I mean, in the flow builder, there is one screen flow, and second one is a platform event, record triggered flows, auto launch flows, and schedule triggered flows. So
Okay,
all these things, are different flows in flow builder.
okay, okay. What are different kinds of means and the record triggered flow? What are the two options that we have?
And the record trigger flow before save flow and after save flow.
Okay. Can I call auto launch flow from before flow?
Yeah,
Have you worked hands-on on flows?
I mean, I majorly work on screen flows, Ankit.
Okay. Okay, then can I use LWC in screen flows?
LWC. Yes.
Okay,
So on both vice versa is possible from the recent releases. So
okay,
LWC in flow and flow in LWC. Both is possible.
okay. Uh, and with Apex, can you call a flow?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, uh, Means security model wise, what is the difference between lookup and master detail?
Yeah, it's I mean like the lookup relationship and master data relationship is used to link the two separate object. So there are multiple differences for the lookup relationship and master data relationship. So the lookup relationship is like if there are 40 you have to create up to 40 relationship between the two objects. So for the master data relationship, there you have to create only up to two. In the lookup relationship is like the child option object field is optional, where in the child object field is mandatory. You need to give the value in a master data relationship. In the master data relationship, if you delete the parent record, the child also be deleted. But in the lookup, it's loosely coupling. If you delete the parent, also child will be there, and the sharing settings and all these things will be take care by the individual objects in a lookup relationship. But in master data relationship is like all will be take care, the sharing all these things, ownership all will be take care of parent object in master data relationship. And the roll up summaries will be created in a master data relationship but not in a lookup relationship.
I think
And
that's well explained quite well. You know
yes.
the differences. Uh, Next, tell me, have you worked on test classes?
Yes, Ankit, I worked on test classes.
Okay, tell me the use of at the rate test setup.
Other test setup is used to I mean create the data. I mean if you create the data in test setup, that will be that data will be used in separate methods of test classes. You no need to create separate data for every method. And just it the data will be uh, limited to the only that methods only, Ankit.
Okay. Next, tell me, like if suppose, what is the use of test dot start test and test dot stop test?
Actually, the test dot start test and stop test is used to do not hit the governor limits when you are writing the test classes for asynchronous apex. So normally in best practices, like if you any DML in test classes, just in between that test dot stop test and start, we need to put some DML for not hitting any governor limit.
No, the answer is not right. So test dot start test actually it refreshes the governor limits as you mentioned, but test dot stop test actually if there's any asynchronous method, then it will force it to become synchronous. Did you follow that, or shall I explain in detail?
Yeah, understanding. Like there's a test dot start test is like used to refresh the governor limits is one, and test dot stop test is you mentioned.
that if there's any asynchronous method, like suppose there's a future method you want to do, you want to write a test method for future method, or your code is method is calling a future method. So we know like future method doesn't get executed immediately. There is some delay.
Okay.
Now to make sure like it executes immediately,
Immediately.
then test dot stop test, what it does, it forces it to become synchronous.
Yeah, I understand it.
Sorry, I didn't. I was not able to hear you clearly. Really yet. Let's resume.
Yeah, having a good internet connection
No,
only, Ankit.
problem is my at my side, it seems.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's resume. Yeah. So I think we were on test dot stop test. So you had some.
Yes.
So I was saying that test dot stop test, it forces any asynchronous method to become synchronous.
Synchronous. Yeah.
Okay. Now tell me, like, uh, do you know about wrapper classes?
Yes. I worked on a web class, Ankit.
Okay, what is the what actually we are able to do with wrapper classes?
So Vapor class is like a collection of data. Collection of data. It's like in the tabs. It's similar to the object. In the object, we having the different data types. So it's similar to object only. In the class, we having the different. We want some different data types to get the like for in my case like I worked on one example. So I take the one table. So in the table, just I need to mention that account and a number of contacts related to the account and that context I need to display in the table. So on that time I use that wrapper class for displaying that different data types of table.
Okay, so basically without actually having to store, you are just creating a wrapper to just show
Yes.
that in. Okay. Uh, Next, tell me like any other design pattern. Yeah, design patterns have you heard about in Apex?
Yeah, I mean like a trigger design patterns.
Okay,
Ankit.
trigger is a different frame. There is framework of for trigger, I would say. And hello.
Yes, I'm there, Ankit.
Okay. Next, tell me like you worked on the LWC. So what are the lifecycle hooks that we have in LWC?
Yes, in LWC there are the multiple life cycle loops. Like first life cycle loop is like it's callback methods, callback functions. So it will be triggered at a specific amount of component instance in a life cycles. So there are multiple life cycle loops is like constructor connected callback, disconnected callback, error callback, and rendered callback, and a render method. So the constructor is used to it will be called when the component is created in the dump. So it's a constructor. So the connected callback is it will call when the component is inserted into the DOM. So that disconnected will be called. So when the component is removed from the DOM, on the time we need to perform some cleanup activity like remove the listeners and unsubscribe the if you are using the LMS, like if you want to remove that listeners and subscribe the channel name, that all these things will be done in a disconnected callback. So on the rendered callback, it is a very powerful, and if you didn't use it carefully, it will be causing the very performance issue in the rendered callback. So it will be calling again and again if if the component redundants, I mean like if the any property changes, the component redundants, and that time that rendered callback will be called again and again. So it will be causes very serious performance issue if you didn't use it carefully. And the error callback is like it is used to when it will be called like when that component I mean throws any error on the time that error callback will be called. So in that error callback there are two parameters like error and stack will be there. So it will be take care of that errors in the component. and it's a render is not a life cycle hook, so it's a special method. So render is used to conditionally render the templates according to the condition. Yeah, that's it, Ankit.
Yeah, sorry, I was speaking on mute. I'm saying like, how do you call means what are the different ways like you can do a different communication between two LWC components?
Yes, if you want to do the communication between the two components, like whether we having the parent-child relationship or a child-to-parent relationship. For suppose if the two components having the parent-child relationship, so that will be used through the public properties. So in LWC, we having that @API public property is there. If you define any property uh, in front like @API, that method or property will be public methods that can be accessed through different components. Through this Other API decorator only, we can achieve that parent-child communication. Other API decorator is that property is used in a child to get the value from the parent. That is called a parent-child communication. And child to parent communication is used achieved by using the custom events. So whenever I mean like first you need to create that event, custom event, and then dispatch the event to the parent, and that parent will be in that parent just we need to make a handle. So according to that, we will achieve through child to parent communication, Ankit.
You mentioned about other things, but you didn't mention about LMS.
LMS is like if you want to communicate with the two unrelated components. So on the time we need to use LMS, Lightning Message Service, and Lightning Message Channel. If the more Lightning LMS is like it causes the performance issues. So maximum time you no need to go for the LMS. Just try to use that hierarchy. So don't go for a non-hierarchy type of components for sharing the data between the two components.
Okay. Next, tell me about the best practices of writing Apex code.
Apex code, I mean like just avoiding that hard code IDs, and second thing is that uh, do not I mean like hard code IDs, and just try to use that map collections. So for storing that IDs and so try to bulkify your code like
Yeah,
that. So you're talking about Apex class, right, Ankit?
yeah. Uh, class
Yeah.
in general, I'm talking about.
So do not put small and DML inside that for loops. So it will hit the governor limits easily. And so check for the null pointer exception. If the variable, if the list or variable doesn't hold any value, on the time you are getting that null pointer exception. So try to check it before using that value in the for null check, and use the safe operator. Use the safe operator. So if you are trying to assuming that you are getting the exception on that variable, if it isn't, so and try to use that try catch block for avoiding that exception in classes.
Okay. Uh, Next thing is, what is the means? What is the default batch size of trigger? Like how many records can you process in one go in trigger?
In trigger, we have 200 records.
Okay. In the batch girl class, what is the default batch size that is being passed?
So if you didn't specify any batches, there is the system will take automatically the default size is 200.
Okay. Uh, Give me 1 minute.